Hi everyone. I wanted to show you a quick example of how inequalities turn around when you're solving an inequality, because it looked like, based on the test, it looked like some people could use some clarification. So here's a quick example. We're going to solve the inequality 2x plus 3 is greater than x plus 5. So there are lots of ways to do this, but just to start, let's subtract 2x from both sides. Now maybe this isn't how you would do it, but this is a valid way to do it. And I'm doing it this way so I can demonstrate the mistake that people were making. So when we simplify the left-hand side, these 2x's cancel, and we just are left with 3 on the left-hand side is greater than. And then on the right-hand side, x minus 2x is negative x plus 5. Okay, now we need to choose our next move. To isolate the x, let's subtract 5 from both sides. And then on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, the 5's are going to cancel. So the right-hand side is going to be negative x. And on the left-hand side is just 3. So now we have 3 is greater than negative x. And then for our final move here, we're going to divide both sides by negative 1. Okay, and so that will give us, on the left-hand side, 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. And negative x divided by negative 1, these minus signs cancel, really. So on the right-hand side, we have x. And at this point, because we multiplied by a negative number, or divided by a negative number, which amounts to the same thing, because we divided by both sides of this inequality by a negative number, the inequality symbol turns around. So it was greater than, so it becomes less than. So right here, this inequality is less than and not greater than. And this is because we multiplied or divided by a negative. Okay, so now we've finished solving for x. So x is negative 3 is less than x. And if we wanted to draw a quick picture of what this looked like, what these solutions looked like, so here's a number line. We could put negative 3 on here, say over here. The boundary at negative 3 is not included because x can't be equal to negative 3, so we need an open circle or a round bracket. Here, let me switch to a color. So an open circle indicating that negative 3 is not included, and then also everything to the right of negative 3. Okay, so there's a picture of our collection of solutions. Now some people were uncomfortable, it seemed like some people were uncomfortable having x on the right-hand side of an inequality. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you don't like having your variable on the right-hand side when you're done solving, you should feel free to switch it to the left-hand side. But if you sort of do this crossing move, where you're switching, you're not actually doing an operation to each side of the inequality, you're not adding or multiplying anything, you're just switching both sides, the inequality actually also turns around. So it goes like this. So this inequality says x is greater than minus 3. And if you read both of these aloud, you can see that they say the same thing. This first one says negative 3 is less than x. That means negative 3 is the small one and x is the big one. And the second one says x is greater than negative 3, and that says x is the small one. Sorry, x is the big one, and negative 3 is the small one. So both of these say negative 3 is the small one and x is the big one. So you have to turn the inequality around so that these two things say the same thing. The mistake that I was seeing on the test looks like this. So let's see. If we back up a couple steps, it looked like 3 is, I need to, what did it look like? Right, 3 greater than negative x. So we had 3 greater than negative x. So the mistake I was seeing was some people, they wanted to divide by -1, which is the right thing to do. And then at the same time, they switched the sides. So they saw on the right-hand side, right, these minus signs cancel just like before. And so we are left with x, but they wanted x to be on the left-hand side, which is also okay. On the left-hand side, 3 divided by -1 is -3, so let's put that on the right-hand side. And then they sort of lost track of what the inequality should be. So they looked at the previous step. It was a greater than symbol. They divided by -1, so then they switched it to a less than symbol. But this is wrong because we've actually, by dividing by -1 and switching sides, we should switch the direction of this inequality twice instead of just once. So this is now incorrect. Right, if you flip this inequality sign to less than and then back to greater than, then it should be x is greater than -3. So the two situations where you have to turn the inequality around are, first, if you multiply or divide your inequality by a negative number, and second, if you just reverse the two sides of the inequality without actually changing them, the inequality also turns around. So I hope that helps. If not, please let me know. Bye.